An entire generation of women will have to relive the trauma of Paul Bernardo with the news that this government moved Paul Bernardo, that monster, from a maximum security facility to a medium security facility. He will be able to have visitors. He'll be able to interact with other people. The Minister of Public Safety said that he was shocked by the news. We now know that he'd been aware for 3 months. So, what he said was false. Will he resign? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was shocked. I was shocked because I was informed about this on May 30th, the day after Mr. Bernardo was transferred to a medium security institution. It was a mistake within my office. I will take tangible action now. We will always defend victims' rights. I will communicate with representatives of the families of Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey. We will always stand up for their rights and all victims' rights. The Honourable Opposition Leader.
Of Canadian women have to relive the traumatization of hearing Paul Bernardo's name. They all remember his horrific and monstrous crimes. They learned that this government decided to free this monster from maximum security prison and allow him to go to medium security, where he'd be able to interact with other people, have visitors, and enjoy other liberties. Now, this minister claimed this was all a big surprise to him. However, we learned today that his office knew in early March and was informed again in May. In other words, he did know, and what he said was false. Will he resign?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth. As I said earlier, I was informed on May 30th, the day after Paul Bernardo was physically transferred to a medium security institution. And at that time, I took immediate action expressing the concerns of the families of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French to the Commissioner. There is an internal review process. I have also made it clear to my staff that this should have been briefed immediately. Corrective steps have been taken. I have dealt with it, and we will now always defend the rights of victims.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, now he's throwing his staff under the bus. His office admits that they found out on March the 2nd, 3 months before the minister claimed to be shocked by the news. If his staff had really kept a secret from him of this enormity, he would have fired them a long time ago. But he hasn't, because he knows, and they know, that he knew way back then. So will he do the only honourable thing that is left for him to do, and resign?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I invite the Leader of the Conservative Party to repeat that allegation outside of the House. I will absolutely reject it. I knew on May 30th...
Order. 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 I'm going to ask the members to take a deep breath. I know some of the topics we discuss in here are very emotional and we get carried away, but I'm going to ask everyone to take a deep breath and allow the minister to answer so that the honourable member of the Leader of the Opposition can hear the answer. The Honourable Minister, please continue. You have 22 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, it is the Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada who misleads this House when he impugns my knowledge before May 30th. I have made it absolutely clear that that was the day on which I found out. I have taken corrective steps internally with my office, an office for which I am responsible for, to this Parliament, to the Canadian public, which is why immediately upon knowing that fact, that he was transferred to a medium security institution, I raised it with the Commissioner. I've spoken with the representatives of the families of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, and we will always defend.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, first of all, I have stated all of these things outside of the House of Commons, so whatever threat he's trying to make, he can act on. But more important than that, he did not act. His office knew on March the 2nd. He expects us to believe that his staff just forgot to walk down the hall and inform him that perhaps the most notorious killer in Canadian history was being moved out of a maximum security penitentiary to enjoy more luxuries and more freedoms in a medium security penitentiary. Finally, he has the power now to designate mass murderers all to go into maximum security prisons. He could have done that weeks ago. Why hasn't he done it, and why hasn't he resigned?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada lays out a prescription for political interference which foreshadows what Canadians would get with a Conservative government. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we recognize the independence of those decisions, and when I became aware of the fact that Bernardo had been transferred to a medium security institution, I raised it with the Commissioner. I raised the concerns.
I'm going to have to interrupt again. I mean, it's getting way out of hand. I just want everyone to take a deep breath. The Honourable Minister, you have 20 seconds.
Say you're sorry. Mr. Speaker, in the questions that are posed by the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Canadians know they will get a prescription for political interference. On this side of the House, we're doing it the right way. Today, I will be issuing new ministerial instructions to the Correctional Services of Canada to make sure that they put victims' rights at the centre of decisions to transfer, that they inform victims' families before those transfers take place, and we will always stand up for their rights.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is the legitimate power of a public safety minister to issue directives about classes of prisoners. The former public safety minister, Ralph Goodale, did that about prisoners suspected of having contraband. That's right. That is normal. That is a power that the minister has today. He could classify all mass murderers as requiring maximum security detention. That is a decision he could make now. It is a decision he could have made on March the 2nd when his office became aware that this monster was being transferred out of maximum security prison. Why, given that he has not done that and because he has misled this House, will the Prime Minister fire him?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada did not hear my last answer. We will be issuing new directions to the Correctional Service of Canada to ensure that they put victims' rights at the centre of these decisions, to be sure that they inform victims' families before these transfers take place, and to be sure that I am directly notified on a go-forward. What did they get with Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, the last time they were in government? Cuts to the Correctional Services of Canada in the amount of $300 million in their last year of government. That's the difference between what Canadians get with Conservatives and what they will get with our government.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Office of the Public Security Minister. We just have found out that his office was aware of the transfer of Paul Bernardo out of maximum security 3 months ago, but the minister claims that he only knew about it on May 30th. If the minister can't keep his house in order, how is he going to keep the country safe? When will the minister stop waiting beside a fax machine and start checking his emails for these serious updates?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Sir, I want to thank my colleague from the NDP for his question. As I said earlier in this chamber, that I was notified on May 30th, the day after Paul Bernardo was transferred to a medium security institution. I have taken corrective steps to deal with the issues within my office, and going forward have indicated that we will be issuing new instructions to the Correctional Service of Canada to put victims' rights at the very centre of transfer decisions, to make sure that victims' families are notified, and that is something that I will continue to be focused on every day. That is defending victims' rights.
Well, member for Burnaby South.
The problem doesn't end there.
The director of CSIS confirmed in committee that his department had indeed informed the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, when he was Minister for Public Safety, of the information concerning the member for Wellington Halton Hills. I quote the director. He said, "I shared the information with the Department of Public Safety with very specific instructions to share it with the Minister." So, can the Minister confirm to this House that he is now able to check his emails?
Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Speaker, I'm pleased to have an opportunity to clear up a misunderstanding the member opposite appears to have. Mr. Speaker, the National Security and Intelligence Advisor, the public safety officials, and Director Vigneault have all been very clear. Ministers and their offices do not have direct access to top-secret electronic networks. Mr. Vigneault did not send his note to me, nor did he notify me that the information had been sent. Director Vigneault had many opportunities to brief me, and unfortunately never briefed me on the contents of his note.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse.
The honourable member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, When we found out last week that serial killer Paul Bernardo was being transferred out of maximum security, the Minister of Public Safety said he was surprised. But according to the CBC, staff in his office knew about the transfer for 3 months. So this is incomprehensible. If ministerial responsibility means anything to the minister, he should resign. Will he? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, as I stated, I was shocked by the Correctional Service of Canada's decision to transfer Mr. Bernardo. I was informed of that decision on May 30th. I took immediate action, corrective action in my office because I take my responsibilities very seriously. We will continue to insist on victims' rights. We will protect victims. I've had good conversations with the representatives of the French and Mahaffey families, and we will work together to protect victims. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, is it Lévis? Yes, but can you imagine the anxiety, the anguish, the sadness that the victims' families found out that the minister had known about the transfer for 3 months and hadn't done anything? It makes no sense, and it's irresponsible. This minister has lost all credibility when it comes to protecting victims. He needs to resign now. Will he resign, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is incorrect. I found out on May 30th, as I've said many times now. I am taking action. I will provide new instructions to correctional services. Correctional services should inform victims' families before making the decision to transfer. They should also directly brief me as Minister of Public Safety, and we will always stand up for victims' rights.
The Minister of Public Safety told Canadians that he relied on the advice of law enforcement to implement the Emergencies Act. That was false. He told Canadians that the Beijing-run police stations in our country were closed, and that was false. And then he told Canadians that he didn't know about a child rapist and murderer, Paul Bernardo's transfer out of a maximum security prison. He stood in front of the victims' families and acted shocked. He knew for 3 months, and now he's throwing his staff under the bus. So which staff member did he fire?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, you're absolutely right. I stood with the families of Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey because I have great care for them, as do all Canadians. That's why I called the Commissioner to express my concerns. That's why she's conducting a review of the decision. That's why I'm issuing new instructions to the CSC. The Honourable colleague refers to the Emergencies Act. I will always defend this government's decision to invoke that act. While we were working around the clock to restore public safety, what were the Conservatives doing? What was the leader of the Conservative Party doing? He was serving up Timmies, Mr. Speaker. In this side of the House, we will always defend law and order.
Well, member for Thornhill.
If he claims he doesn't read emails, if he claims he doesn't get briefed by staff, if he claims he doesn't get briefed by his officials, if he claims he doesn't tell the Prime Minister anything, what does he actually do here? He told the families of Paul Bernardo's victims that he had no knowledge of the transfer. He pretended that he had no idea. He re-victimized the families of the victims, and he doesn't have the trust of Canadians. His own caucus can't even look up at him. Minister, there is only one option: resign.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the events that occurred
Government House Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, the horrific events that were a result of the absolutely heinous crimes by Paul Bernardo are something that are felt viscerally, I would say by every single Canadian. That what the minister has stated, this is a decision that was made by Correctional Services Canada, which acts independently. The minister indicated that when he became aware of it, he indicated to Correctional Services that he did not find that decision acceptable, asked for it to be reviewed, and we also have asked for take a victim-centered approach going forward in corrections, and I want to work with the party opposite on that because I know they care as well.